Okay, here we are, week 9. We are in the final week of the season, so we're in a very interesting position. We are currently at a 4-4 record with a +1 differential, currently ranked 7th, and basically this is a win and in. If we win this week, then we are going to make it to the playoffs. If we lose this week, then our playoff hopes are pretty much over. So, our opponent this week is Ladner, host of the Saint Louis Sableyes, and they're actually a fairly middle-of-the-road team right now in terms of rankings, but they are a very solid team. They are 5-3 with a +6 record, and right now, their team is probably one of the best in terms of overall balance. We see Tapu Koko here, which is really good for offensive capabilities as well as pivoting with Volt Switch. Hawlucha is a very strong Pokemon to pair with Tapu Koko. And with Unburden, it is a horrifying force to deal with. Zygarde is, again, a very strong Pokemon to deal with, and the fact that it has access to Dragon Dance is terrifying. We see Cryogonal, which is a fairly solid and fairly quick special defensive Ice type, so we're definitely going to want to pay attention to that if that comes in. Magmortar is a fairly basic and solid Fire-type Pokemon in general. Snorlax is a very good defensive Pokemon, and as a Fighting type weakness only, that means that we have to be mindful of how to deal with it. Roserade is here, which is a pretty solid, slightly bulky Grass type. And we also see Mega Blastoise, which is a fairly good defensive Pokemon. Metagross is a very solid defensive and offensive Steel and Psychic type. Umbreon is a huge bulk Dark type to deal with. And finally, we have Dusclops, which is a very bulky Ghost type and a very significant threat. So overall, this team is actually going to be a nightmare to punch through. So looking at the team, these are the 6 that I'm expecting to come in. I definitely expect Koko Lucha to come in for sure, because that is typically Ladner's favorite combo. Cryogonal, I can imagine coming in because it's fairly fast and also very special defensive. Snorlax definitely is going to be coming in, I'm willing to bet, because of its defensive capability, as well as the fact that it could just set up nicely. Metagross definitely is coming in, especially with its Bullet Punch priority. And finally, Umbreon is basically such a pain in the ass to get rid of in general, that if Ladner does not bring it in, I will be thoroughly surprised. So with this team in mind, we have decided to come up with quite a few alternative solutions. This is the team we're bringing in, and holy shit, this team feels weird, I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like we have to go out of the box in order to come into the playoffs. So first off, Xeno is back once again. However, Xeno has a slightly different moveset than you would expect. With 152 speed and naive nature, Zeraora is able to outspeed everything that isn't Scarfed. And entirely honestly, I do not expect Hawlucha or Tapu Koko to get Scarf, because both of them kind of work without that. So we have Knockoff, Close Combat, and Fake Out, but the special heat here is Rising Voltage. For those of you who don't know what this is, Rising Voltage is a special electric attack, 70 base power, but if the target is on the ground in electric terrain, the power doubles. So, while I don't expect this to work necessarily on Hawlucha directly, the fact of the matter is, this can actually deal a massive amount of damage in general, even against Tapu Koko. Because I did the math, and Rising Voltage against standard Tapu Koko actually does somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 to 80% even resisted. So this is actually a huge benefit for us. And it's going to work as a really solid attack in general, as long as he doesn't have anything that can resist it, which I don't believe he has anything except for the Zygarde, which again, if Zygarde comes in, we're not planning on keeping Zeraora around anyway. Next we have Hoodwink the Scrafty. She's in once again, carrying the Roselli Berry, because she can actually take a hit from Tapu Koko's Dazzling Gleam with this berry, and come back with Poison Jab to deal a significant amount of damage, and she's also rocking Dragon Dance, Knockoff, and Close Combat for general purposes otherwise. She is still somewhat slow in general, but after a Dragon Dance, she can get pretty good mileage off in general. Then we have Roshi, who is here again as our Mega. And again, standard moveset, standard spread. This time around, we are carrying the high jump kick specifically because we need that extra power against Snorlax and against Umbreon. Umbreon is a bit of an oddity because of the fact that it probably will carry Protect. So with that in mind, we'll have to be careful. However, high jump kick definitely is worth the risk at this point with two of the team being that strong. Then we have Katsuyu, who is currently rocking an Assault Vest. Her moveset is going to be Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and Sludge Wave. The reason is because Dragon-type attacks, for the most part in this matchup, aren't going to be that helpful. However, Ice Beam will help deal with the Zygarde that might come in. Flamethrower can deal a lot of damage in general to the Metagross and the, Cryogonal. Thunderbolt can deal significant damage to Hawlucha, especially if we come in on an electric terrain. And finally, Sludge Wave is there to specifically deal with Tapu Koko. Even a Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Koko will not do a lot of damage here, and then Sludge Wave will more or less have a chance of killing on the crackback. Finally, next we have Artorigus, who is standing here with the Expert Belt, rocking King Shield, Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, and Shockwave. Again, Shockwave is there to help deal with Hawlucha, which Artorigus actually walls out Hawlucha pretty well, which is nice. And Shockwave will be able to deal a fairly standard amount of damage to Hawlucha, even more so if it's in electric terrain, which is important. And by focusing on bulk in general, this means that Shadow Sneak will be able to deal a decent amount of damage overall, while at the same time also managing to get some extra power off with that 60 special attack in the Modest Nature. And then finally we have Clifford, who is currently in an interesting position. We have Extreme Speed, which is kind of expected given the fact that priority is going to matter. But we also have Snarl, Scorching Sands, which can help deal with Tapu Koko potentially. And finally we have Burn Up. Burn Up actually deals a lot of damage in general because it's a base 130 attack fire type. But it also removes the fire typing off of Arcanine, which can mean that if something like Zygarde comes in, we're not going to take super effective damage from Earthquake or anything like that. And on top of that, it could be a surprise attack boost, because the thing is, Ladner knows that I typically don't mess with things such as Fire Fang or Fire Blast. Generally, anything that requires lower accuracy, typically I avoid, which means that a lot of the higher base power moves get ignored. And Burn Up has 100 accuracy, so this is a pretty good trade-off for us. So overall, this team is definitely a bit wonky compared to normal. However, I feel like this is going to work out for us. So let's get into this last battle. Let's take that win. Let's get into the playoffs. Everyone, it's time to battle. Okay, so here's the battle, and I have to say I'm quite surprised. We were quite wrong on a lot of this. The only two we actually got correct, I think, was Koko and Hawlucha. Interesting. Okay. So, with that being the case, the question is going to be, who do we expect? I feel like Koko might be the start, so I'm kind of debating on who we want to actually kick off with. Clifford wouldn't be a bad idea to get an attack drop, but I feel like he might... I don't think that's going to matter. So we're going to start with... This is actually a really, really tough one. Since I think we're going to start with Koko, I think we're going to start with Katsuyu. And I know that's a weird thought, but my reasoning is, if he starts with Tapu Koko, one of two things is going to happen. Either either he's gonna start and go for... I feel like he might... he's not gonna go for a Dazzling Gleam. I don't think that's gonna be enough to kill. He might go for a Volt Switch or a U-turn. So, part of me wants to actually... Let's see. Because he might... I feel like he's going to go for a Volt Switch and try to get an option there. The question is, what do we want to go for instead then? I think aside from Blastoise specifically, and or maybe... I think aside from either Blastoise specifically or Magmortar, the best move is going to be Ice Beam, because it could deal decent damage to Tapu Koko. It'll one-shot Zygarde. Yeah, we're going to do that. If he decides to go for a Volt Switch or a U-turn and switch into Zygarde, then so be it. If he switches into Hawlucha, that's also fine, because Ice Beam is going to do a crap load of damage. And I'm willing to bet Hawlucha's probably going to have the Electric Seed to boost his defense and get the speed boost. So, Ice Beam's not going to give a damn in that regard. Blastoise. Okay. So, interesting. Okay, what's he going to do then? Ice Beam could do a decent bit. Thunderbolt is going to do 68 to 80. But if Ice Beam's not going to be able to do that much anyway, and we should be, realistically, I feel like we should be faster. We're going to Thunderbolt. Okay, we're faster, deals a lot. Ice Beam does a little bit, but not very much. So, okay, now comes the next question. He knows that we are faster. He knows that Thunderbolt will kill. Does he switch into Zygarde? I kind of feel like Zygarde's the switch, and honestly, I think that's okay. Ice Beam won't be enough to kill Blastoise, but it will do a decent chunk anyway. It can kill the Zygarde on the in the switch in. We're gonna go with that. Oh, he actually stays in. Interesting. Okay, we're sticking with Ice Beam, so we're gonna get the kill. Unfortunately, Katsuyu is not going to last too much longer. But Dazzling Gleam still has a chance of not killing from this health. So as long as there's no... I guess the right wording for this is as long as there's no hazards, effectively, Katsuyu can take a hit from Dazzling Gleam potentially and crack back with Sludge Wave. Let's see. And there's the Zygarde. See, here's one thing I didn't think about. Zygarde is going to be faster than us, which is a slight issue. So... But he might take this chance to Dragon Dance, is the problem. If we switch out, he's going to Dragon Dance, and we don't really have a way to counteract that. So, what we're going to do... As much as I would like to keep Katsuyu around specifically to deal with Koko, we do have other options. I'm going to Ice Beam. If he Dragon Dances, he gets greedy. If he doesn't Dragon Dance... Well, actually, let me double check that. Ice Beam definitely will kill, unless he's like max. So, let's do that. 1,000 arrows. Okay, so 1,000 arrows is going to kill. That's fine. So... Now we need to figure out who we're going to switch into. So 1,000 arrows won't do a lot at -1. Problem is, The problem, though, is the fact that Arcanine does not do a lot in return. We actually don't have a good way to deal with this thing, now that I think about it. The only thing I can think of would be... I think we might have to go for a Fake Out on Roshi. Yeah, I think we'll have to go Fake Out on Roshi, and then follow it up with the High Jump Kick. Oh, but wait a minute. We have to be careful, though, because Dusclops is here. That's an issue. Well, I still say we Mega Evolve and Fake Out, because if nothing else, this will get us set up with Roshi to where we don't have to worry about that later on. And Roshi can still deal a lot here. Okay, so there's the Dusclops. Okay. So... let's see. How much will Roshi do with Zen Headbutt? A lot. I think that's our best play, realistically. So let's Zen Headbutt. We deal about 30%. Okay, that's actually a big problem. So it only does 30. Wow. Okay. Eviolite, though, is a big issue, and we're definitely going to want to get a knockoff going. So I guess the question is, how do we deal with this? I think it's going to be a physical attacker, potentially, so we're going to switch into Clifford. Hex. Okay, that actually doesn't hurt us that badly. And that also means that we can afford to Snarl. That'll drop its stats. Magmortar, that's okay. Takes a little bit there. Oh, wait a minute. Here's a thought now. So, Magmortar. Does Arcanine's Scorching Sands only does about 50 to 60. But that's actually not that bad, though. And Scorching Sands on their end, too, which is also funny. And that also means that we get to go for the extreme speed, and I think that should be enough to take it out. So, yes it is. Alright, that helps out. That actually does a lot of good for us. So the question is, now, what is Clifford going into? Or, what is Ladner going into, rather? The fact that Hawlucha has not come in yet is a bit concerning, but we have ways of dealing with Hawlucha, which is important. In fact, I'm pretty sure, barring something insane such as... Knockoff, which I'm not even sure if Hawlucha gets Knockoff, I think Aegislash kind of walls it out. So this is going to be an interesting development. Now, so Zygarde is still full. Everything he's got left except for Dusclops is at full health. Dusclops is at 70%. I guess the question is, does Dusclops actually have anything to realistically deal with Clifford right now? If not, because... okay, there's the Zygarde. So we need to figure out what we're going to do with this. Well, the fact of the matter is, I don't think Clifford actually does enough here to matter in anything else. And Zygarde might honestly go for a Dragon Dance here, which if it does, we're in some trouble. Burn Up can do a fair amount, though, which is kind of helpful in that sense. We're going to go for a Burn Up. Or, well, actually, no, because Clifford actually still has utility with Intimidate. So, I kind of want to switch into Hoodwink. Yeah, let's switch into Hoodwink. We'll get the attack drop. And then... Substitute. Okay. Okay. That's not too bad. And it's got leftovers. Good to know. So... the question is, what do we want to go with here? Do we want to Dragon Dance right away? Or do we... I think we need to Poison Jab. I think we need to do what we can to take out... At the very least, we need to... Well, Knockoff will actually do enough to break the sub anyway, so we'll do that. There's the Dragon Dance. Okay, that's a problem. And... honestly, I say now we just close combat. Yeah, I say we just close combat now. He wants to go up for a higher speed, that's fine, but... we can... if he Dragon Dances again, then we can just switch into... we can switch into Arcanine again. Drop the attack back to neutral. And then that high speed doesn't really matter too much. Especially since Medicham can still do some damage, even burned. Which is okay. And Arcanine has extreme speed, so if we can at least whittle this thing down, it won't be as big a deal. Because this is going to be tough. This is going to be a tough one, admittedly, but I think this is okay. I think we're still in the clear. Not necessarily in the clear, but we definitely have a chance. Alright, there's Tapu Koko. Okay, that did not do a lot in that, which shocks me. Oh, wait a minute. Does... okay, wait, we need to check something. Does Tapu Koko kill at -1 with Dazzling Gleam? Yes, it does. Which is problematic. So... what we need to do is figure out what we're going to switch in here. Let's see. We know it has Volt Switch. He's probably going to go for a Dazzling Gleam. Okay, so this is interesting because Roshi admittedly is kind of useless now. But Xeno can... so... we could let that happen. This is a tough one, actually. I definitely feel like Hoodwink can handle Tapu Koko. I feel like Hoodwink could potentially handle Dusclops. So the question is, do we just let Roshi go? The problem is, Roshi's not going to do enough to matter. It's the big problem. I think our best play is just to let Roshi drop. Especially with Zygarde switched out, that means the speed boost is not as big a deal. So, okay, we're gonna let Roshi go. Okay. I'm okay with that. It sucks, but I'm okay with that. So now the question is, who do we go into? I think Xeno might be the best play. Because, well, I don't know actually. That's a tough one, actually. Okay, so here's a better question. Do we want... I think our best play is going to be going into Xeno. So, the question... Okay, so I'm feeling like he's going to switch. He might... Okay, he might be Scarf, but I'm not sure. But... we can knock off if he switches. And whatever comes in is going to get hit. Halucha is not that big a deal, so we're going to knock off. I don't... If Coco stays in... and is Scarfed, Dazzling Gleam is only going to do about half. Oh, we're faster. Okay. Boots. Okay, there's the Roost. Okay, that's not too bad. The question is, what is he going to switch into now? I want to click Rising Voltage so bad. I really do. The problem is that doesn't do enough to Coco to kill. And on top of that, switching into Zygarde would basically just kill it for us. That being said, I don't think he's expecting me to go on an electric move anyway. Fuck it, let's go for it. Okay. That actually works out nicely for us. Because he's either going to Roost, which Close Combat has a chance to kill if he Roosts, or he switches into Zygarde, and Close Combat fucks him up good. So we're going to Close Combat. There's the Zygarde. Come on. Okay. That helps a lot. And we're faster. So Xeno honestly has done his job, I feel like. So we're going to... Okay, well, we're actually going to switch. Yeah, we're going to switch into Clifford, I think. Clifford can Extreme Speed and deal damage. And at this point, doesn't really have much utility otherwise. So we're gonna switch into Clifford, take the hit. Okay. Now the question is, do we just Extreme Speed or do we Burn Up? 1,000 Arrows, I think, has a chance to kill. Let's see. Assuming Dragon Dance setup. Arcanine, Intimidate. 1,000 Arrows does 50 to 59. So we're gonna have... It's gonna kill. Extreme Speed, unfortunately, does not do a lot. But we don't I'm pretty sure we're not gonna outspeed. So I kind of want to take what we can. Yeah, we're gonna Extreme Speed because nothing else. Well, wait. Does Clifford really have a chance against Dusclops is the big question. I think so. But we also need I think so. And we need extremes. We really need the Extreme Speed to get something. And Coco's weak enough that, realistically speaking, I don't think Hoodwink is as important. So we're going to switch into Scrafty. Get the second Intimidate off. And then we're going to straight up knock off, because unless he switches directly into Coco again... Ooh, he might actually. So do we Poison... Well, this is a tough one. If... I think we Close Combat. Because if... Let's see. Scrafty, Close Combat does 31 to 37. But if he switches into Dusclops, Knockoff does 47 to 55, which puts him in a huge rank. So we're going to Close Combat. Alright, there's the Coco. Unfortunately, living by 3 is going to be a bitch. But that's not that bad. So what we can do is... I feel like he's going to go for the safe play, which is going to be the Dazzling Gleam. Or, oh wait, he might roost. If he roosts, we're in trouble. We're going to Poison Jab. If we lose Hoodwink, we lose Hoodwink. But Hoodwink's not really going to do much aside from a knockoff anyway, which we have Xeno that can do that. So we're going to Poison Jab. Okay. That's fine. I had to take that chance. So... the question now becomes... well, actually, well, okay, here's the big question. Which do we deal with? Xeno? Let's see. Coco is gonna go for a roost at some point. We're gonna switch into Zeraora. Violet, calm down. So the question is, do we want to fake out? Do we want to fake out? Well, no, fake out's pointless because it does very little anyway. Knockoff would kill regardless. And if he switches into anyone else aside from Hawlucha, then Knockoff's going to mess up pretty good. Then again, unless he switches into Zygarde, Rising Voltage isn't a bad idea either. Or we just go for close combat, nail whatever comes in, if anything. Knockoff can deal with Dusclops for the most part regardless. Yeah, we're going to close combat. And then Zygarde comes in, potentially, and Extreme Speeds. Which would suck, but we can tolerate that. Oh, wait a minute. Well, okay. Okay, here's the Hawlucha, actually. There's the Electric Seed. Okay. That's actually not that bad. Okay, so we can switch it. We actually can switch into Clifford. Make him drop his stat. There's the Acrobatics. And then we just Extreme Speed. We deal what we can. So we know Acrobatics there. So now the question is, okay, so really, I say we just switch into Artorgus. Unfortunately, Shockwave is not going to do enough, I don't think. Let's see. Generally speaking, without electric terrain, it does about 77%, 65 to 77. Shadow Sneak does about 22 to 26 afterwards. I'm kinda... Alternatively, though, Zygarde doesn't care about Shockwave. That's the other issue. But Shadow Ball does 38 to 45. Right? Yeah. So, do we Shadow Ball is the question. I think so. I think, as much as I want to use Shockwave, I feel like it's not the right play. We're going to Shadow Ball. Okay. That did a lot. Down to 16%. Shadow Sneak is not going to be enough, I don't think. Okay. The question... okay, so I guess the big question now just becomes... what do we expect? Do we King Shield? I feel like we King Shield. He's got Acrobatics. He's got Sword Stance. He might have Taunt. If he's got Taunt... and close combat potentially, then Shockwave, actually Shockwave at this point should be enough to kill no matter what. So we're going to King Shield for safety. See what he comes up with here. Another Acrobatics, okay. Loses his attack boost, and now we're going to Shockwave. If he deals damage, that's fine. And then the Shockwave is going to take his ass out. Okay, that helps a lot, actually. Dusclops, interesting. He's got Will-O-Wisp. We do not want to deal with that. Okay, the question now becomes... I feel like he's going to go for Will-O-Wisp. Because he wants to go for a Will-O-Wisp and Hex. And he's going to expect a King Shield. We're going to switch into Xeno. If he Will-O-Wisps, no big deal. There's the Willow. We're going to live. So unless he's got Protect, we're going to knock off, get rid of this item. We get rid of the item, we get rid of Eviolite, or we get rid of Leftovers. Either way, it doesn't matter. There goes the Leftovers. That's fine. And then... So our Torragus comes in. So, okay, 1,000 arrows versus shield does 52 to 61. We have enough for that. Shadow Ball does 38 to 45. And then Shadow Sneak after that should kill. Let's go with that. Let's see. 1,000 arrows. 8%. Okay. Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak for sure. Because Extreme Speed can't kill. 163, 156. Okay, so we should be able to... The question now just boils down to, does Dusclops live a Shadow Ball? 45 to 54. Potentially. He's gonna go for a Hex, I feel like. Because we're low enough that it's gonna matter. I feel like that's gonna be what happens. Which, unfortunately, I think we lose this fight. Unless we Shadow Ball... Unless we Shadow Ball and it crits, I don't think we have a chance. Unless he's not specially defensive. But we have to find out. There's only one way to find out. Let's Shadow Ball. Not enough. Damn. You know what? I'm not upset about that. That was a 1-0 loss. We got really fucking close. That was a hell of a game, frankly. And especially considering the fact that it probably, depending on what his spread was, it could have come down to a roll. And honestly, okay, we're gonna have to find out. But that was definitely a good game, especially considering the fact that most of the prediction I was well off on. So we're gonna go into the post game and see and go down the final discussion. Well, unfortunately, this last match ended up a loss, which means that with this, we are officially out of playoff contention. So congratulations, Ladner, for managing to secure your place in the playoffs. And honestly, it was a good game. I can't even be upset. Looking at the spread for our stats here, honestly, I'm impressed by how well our team managed to do overall. And even with the ones that didn't manage to get a kill off in their own right, the fact is they both did fairly decent on their own. Now, unfortunately, Medicham did kind of fall short in general, especially because of Will-O-Wisp, but even still, it wasn't that bad. And honestly, considering the fact that I expected the team to be about 2/3 different than what it really ended up being, honestly, this is the best I could have expected, so I'm okay with that. As for the MVP, really, all of our team did well here, but I think Artorigas definitely deserves this crown for this week. They not only managed to beat Zygarde, which realistically was Artorigas' worst matchup out of this team, but also managed to bring the game down to 1-0 instead of a much worse result. And we actually calced it out afterwards, since we share our pace of our teams afterwards. Turns out, we actually had a chance of beating Dusclops with Shadow Ball right at the last turn on a high roll. And unfortunately, we actually got the lowest possible roll, so that kind of bites. But, considering the fact that we got as close as we did, I'm honestly not upset about this. Especially because this also means that now our final result is going to be 4-5 with a differential of 0, which is actually not too bad, all things considered. As for next week, since we're out of the playoffs, we're not really going to be involved in that situation. However, we are going to discuss our season end awards. Basically, this is going to be where I discuss how each member of the team fared throughout the season, how many kills they managed to achieve, how many times they fell in battle. They have certain details about certain skills that were received throughout the season, such as Heat of the Week, which was something that a couple of our Pokemon actually managed to pick up, which is a stat. Basically, it's a stat of, did this Pokemon do something incredibly crazy, or bring something crazy to the match? That's just one of the stats that we're going to discuss, and we're going to go over all of that next week. So, with that being said, guys, this is Demon Battler for the Miami Overheat, and we will catch you guys for the season finale next week.